Mary Peacock. Welcome back to Let's Move with Mary podcast. And today, my special guest is always Edge. Today, we're going to talk about the housing market. So,
lots to talk about with that. So many things.
Listening to the news is 8%. So a lot of people are just like, whoa, wait a minute. You know, the housing affordability has gotten nuts. It's pretty bad when, rental prices are pretty high. Now, mortgage payments are actually higher than rent right now.
Yeah.
And it was just the opposite like 2-3 months ago. So everybody's kind of put the brakes on a little bit about buying. And then, of course, we have sellers who have a beautiful interest rate of like 3%.
Yeah, they're not trying to get out of that right
now. I'm not going anywhere. And do we blame them? No, really.
No.
So I know we've talked about this before, like even situations. So you got to look at your situation. Like, all right, am I busting at the seams? Can I do the 8%? Can I afford that mortgage payment and move? Would it be worth it? Maybe so. Because interest rates, they go up and they go down. They go up and they go down. And, the prediction, I've been talking to some financial people, some bankers, the last few weeks, and they're really predicting probably in March of next year, interest rates are going to go down. When the Feds meet again and they talk about what they all talk about, they're probably going to lower in March they're figuring anywhere between 4 to 6%. But even if you see 6%, you know what's going to happen? It's going to be a frenzy again.
Yeah.
So we're going to have everybody that, didn't want to pay the 8%, they're going to be out there looking for houses. And so what happens when houses have a lot of people, the prices go up.
Yep.
We just went through that, right? I mean, we had multiple offers that were just ridiculous, like $50,000, $60,000 over list price.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll see that again?
I'm thinking if they drop everything down again, then exactly what they were trying to thwart by upping those and the economy being like, oh, we need everything to settle down a little bit. You talk that frenzy is probably going to happen again. I mean, great for buyers and sellers because you're finally getting into what you want. But really then what we did essentially is just put everybody into a housing, I don't want to say crisis because it's not really a crisis, but it's more of like a tough position with some of the people who were like, I don't care, 8%, let's go. Now they're house poor and they're like, what do I do? I mean, they can always refinance, but what if something happened to where if you're trying to refinance, but your credit went through the tank for whatever reason, loss of a job, something along those lines, then you're just up a creek without a paddle and then some because you don't know what you're going to do.
Or forced to sell it.
Right.
Go back to renting or something. There's always solutions to every issue. Just figuring out what it is. So even though the market is kind of feels like it's turned upside down on its back right now, because it really does kind of feel that way. If you're going to buy, now's the time to really buy.
Yeah.
I know 8% sounds super scary, and the mortgage rates are just like crazy. But if you can afford it, right now's the time to buy. Yeah. Because housing prices, if that interest rate goes down, they're going to go skyrocketing. And you're going to be in competition, and it's going to be like it was a year or two ago where you're going to be paying $20,000, $30,000 over list price.
Fist fights in open houses.
Oh my goodness sakes. It was crazy.
Some of the stories that I heard during that time from other realtors, I'm just like, that is insane. Mainly like in like the bigger cities, like Grand Rapids, Lansing, those kind of guys. I got some friends that I've known for years and went to high school with that are realtors, and they're like, I'd never seen anything like it. Like two grown men just duking it out because one of them was just coming down and going, no, I'll go higher, bid.
It's like the auction effect. Yeah. Have you ever went to an auction before?
Yeah, the livestock auctions at the fair.
Yeah, and you see something that you want, and there's a number right over there, and you're like, oh, I can do another $50. It's just like that. It's the auction effect. So it gets crazy. And I know it doesn't feel like the right time to buy, but it certainly is. And if you're looking to sell, buyers are still out there. The serious buyers that are actually have, they've done their pre-approval, they are all approved, ready and willing and able to move forward. That is a person that you want to sell to. And If you don't need to sell right now and you want to wait till the frenzy in the spring, you might be able to get a little bit more money for your house. It's a possibility.
But it seems kind of like a double-edged sword with that, though, because you look at it and say, okay, I got more money for my house when I sold. However, the house that I want to buy is going to be paying more. It's not going to be like that house that was in November or December that was sitting at $250,000. That's not going to all of a sudden be like $300,000. Like, come on, you're crazy and you're smoking something nuts if you're thinking that they're just going to go, you know what? Let's keep December of 2023's prices, even though the market's crazy.
That's not going to happen.
No.
So really, it boils back down to your situation. So if your situation warrants for you to add more square footage to your lifestyle, now's the time to do it. Mm-hmm. Or if you're even thinking about downsizing because, you know, the house is too much for you to take care of. Well, it's still going to be too much for you to take care of next spring, too.
Yeah.
And you're going to still make that move, just like you pointed out.
Yep.
Housing prices are going to go up. The more demand, the more the housing prices is going to go up. We've already experienced that. So I know everybody is like up in arms about the interest rates going up, but housing prices are going to too. So you got to put that in the equation along with your lifestyle. So, yeah.
One of the things that I was surprised that we didn't see more of, because like when COVID was going on and the housing market was just insane, one of the things that we wanted was a small hobby farm. And we're like, it would be nice to have some place, the small barn, or even a big one that we could turn into like an event center would be really cool to have weddings at. Yeah. That was kind of the idea. I mean, just because it was like, oh, that'd be a nice form of income while making money off the land that we have, because we're not farmers, but we know animals and we know weddings, we know that kind of stuff. And I was really surprised that there weren't some of these older folks, these elderly folks who have lived in the same old farmhouse since their kids were growing up with them, and they weren't going, you know what, let's get out of this, let's sell the house, let's sell the land, let's just free and clear, then we can use the money to go and travel or get a nice place in the villages in Florida or something along those lines. And I didn't see a lot of that, which was, for me, I was like, well, that's a bummer. Like, the closest that I saw was like an hour away. I'm like, I'm not commuting an hour for work.
Yeah, there really isn't a lot that come in our area, in the Shasta County area, because a lot of the elderly or the big family farms that have been there for hundreds of years, they're going to stick there. That's their place. Yeah. And I've noticed a lot of times when those come up for sale, it's usually an estate sale. That means they passed away and the family is usually selling it. Which is
something, like, I guess, to bring up the unfortunate side of things, is another reason why I thought more would show up was because before, you know, everything kind of settled down and COVID kind of became a normal thing, and the rate of people passing away, especially the elderly, I was like, I'm surprised that not more elderly folks have passed away, and the kids are just like, look, family house, that's cool. Let's split the profits. Let's walk away from it. We all live out of state. It's cool. Yeah. You know, that's what my mindset was, you know, but at the same time, it's one of those, I'm looking for a certain thing, and it's not on the market right now. So we kind of pivoted on that and said, okay, let's table that idea. Well, then of course, 50 other people got the same idea of wanting to open an event barn for weddings in the same area. We're like, all right, well, forget it.
We do have a few of those in our area.
Yeah, they've got a couple that popped up. But
what I've noticed a trend is there's a lot of people wanting those hobby farms for growing their own food.
Yes.
Because, you know, I don't know about you, and I don't mean to get off the beaten path here, but I've recently paid attention to ingredients on some foods. And you're like, holy cow. Right? Like, it took me 3 hours to get to the grocery store one time, so I was just like in awe, like, they're feeding us this, you know? So there's a lot of people that feel that same way.
Yep.
And so they want to buy those little pieces of heaven, 10, 20 acres, so they can cultivate their own food and raise their own cattle and their beef and, you know, what have you. So, yeah, I've sold a few of those. In fact, there was one here in Stanwood that we just sold last summer, and it was just about 30 acres, had a little pond on it.
Nice.
And that's what she's doing. She's doing organic farming for her family and for to give back a little bit to the community as well.
Yeah, for like food banks, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What a great way to do things.
It
and,
is. It really is. Well, just to be in control too, what you're eating is a huge thing. So.
And I think it also goes without saying that having a place that you're comfortable with and you enjoy being at is priority number one. Like,
well, where you don't need a vacation from. That's what they always say, right?
Yep.
So, and I totally get it. I personally live on 200 acres. Mm-hmm. So I always say there's no more land being produced.
Yeah.
So when you find these big chunks of land, and when I say big, because nowadays even 10 acres can be a big chunk, you got to hop on it because everybody's doing that. So when everybody does that, what happens? It's just like the Apple phones when they come out. There's a line for miles just waiting for it. Well, same thing with property. You're going to get multiple people that want to put a bid on that, so then it's going to drive the price up. So as a buyer, you have to prepare yourself for that. And one, you want to make sure you're talking to your lender. If it's a vacant property, you want to be talking to a vacant land loan officer, right? Because not everybody does that. So you want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. If it's going to be a homestead with some acreage, you want to make sure you have a decent down payment so you're not house poor. So you could maybe buy that tractor you want to, go to cultivate the land with, or just so many things you have to prepare for.
Yep. Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of things to think about too. Like one thing that I comes to mind for me was when we bought our current house. We just kind of were not really too, I guess, paying attention to a lot of, I don't want to say the appliances, but the major appliances, your furnace, your water heaters, that kind of stuff, your utilities, that you're like, oh, it's fine. Yeah, it's a few years old, but whatever. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, like some type of heat transfer goes out on it and you're like, we don't have any warmth in the winter now. What happens? And then you call up we had to do this. We called up our furnace guy and he's like, yeah, I'm 2 weeks out. We're like,
so how many of you really know what the expectancy of utilities really are?
Right, that's a big one.
So they're between 20 and 25 years, right? I mean, that's the rule of thumb. Yeah. When we call utilities, we call furnace, air conditioning, water softener or water heater. What are the expectancies? Well, with a furnace, it's typically about 20 to 25 years. Then they're going to start having some problems. They could have heat exchange cracks, which is dangerous. That leaks carbon monoxide into your house. You don't want that.
That's what we had.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, no.
That is definitely a furnace replacement.
Yep.
And you're talking sometimes for furnaces anywhere from $7,000 clear up to $10,000 for a furnace, depending on the size of your house. That's a big chunk if you're not prepared for that.
Right.
So when you're buying a house, home warranty is really a good idea. I mean, I've gone down this road before. My daughter actually bought a house. She moved out on her own, and she was on the other side of the state in Otisville, and we found this cute little house. And it was a flip house. A real estate agent bought it and fixed it up and sold it. It wasn't even 3 days that she moved in. The electrical went bad. The boiler went bad. And we had purchased a home warranty.
Yeah.
And for $80 service call, they came out and fixed the problem, which was so nice.
Yeah.
I mean, just that peace of mind alone is worth that. And I think the service calls have gone up because everything's gone up. I think they're like $100 now, but wouldn't it be worth $100 to have a peace of mind that somebody's going to come out and take care of it? And like you said, 2 weeks out, like I can't be without heat for 2 weeks.
Yep. Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's wild. We actually had to have everybody and the dogs and everything else go to a friend's house and stay for a couple of days. Luckily, we found another person who came in and they're like, yeah, we can take care of it in a couple of days. But initially, we're like, this doesn't work for us, And we found that it wasn't necessarily a crack, but it was like it was going bad. And they're like, it's not leaking. We did the monoxide test and everything like that. We had some detectors down by there and make sure that everything was good. But just the fear of it was like, I don't really like, what if we turn it on and then it decides to crack and then next thing you know, you're done. Right. I've seen that Rescue 911 back in the 90s, and I don't want to live it. No, but it was it was a kind of a sobering moment to say, okay, now we're we got that last fall, so it would have been like 4 years in our house. 4 years in, we got to do a whole new furnace. I mean, for resale of the house, that's great because they have a brand new furnace.
Right.
But if you don't have the money, or if you didn't afford for that, and your house poor, then what happens?
Right.
You know, because you got yourself in too deep, saying this is the one that I want. I don't care. I'm just going for it.
Right. And those are all the things you got to think about. Like, what's the age of the roof? Like, roofs have life expectancies too, and they're about 25 years. So if the roof is, 15, 20 years, you've got just a few years left, and in your mind, you need to start thinking about the repair on that, or the replacement. It'd be full replacement, not repair. And that can be $10,000 or more dollars, depending on the size of the house. I mean, that's enormously expensive. So you got to think about that stuff. And those are the major things. That's why I always recommend a home inspection too when you're buying a house, because it's just like going to a car lot and looking at a car, and it looks really pretty on the outside. It's this beautiful white and shiny. It's got these awesome rims on it. But you open up the hood and there's a rat's nest underneath it, and the belts are all squeaky.
And you found out that it went through a flood or two.
Yeah, I mean, you want to make sure you're inspecting what you buy.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really mean that, you have some negotiating power when it comes to inspections. I always tell my clients, you want to look at the major things, like the things that we just talked about. The major expensive things are going to be your furnace and your roofing, right? And foundation is another one. Because some things are going to have foundation issues. Like some of these older farmhouses that you're going to be looking at that have the Michigan basements, you want to make sure that foundation's good. Because that could be 10, 15, 20, 30, 40. I've seen them clear up to $50,000 to repair or possibly even replace a foundation. That could be crazy. And if you're not looking at that stuff prior to purchasing this, and you sign on the dotted line and you are paying that $1,800 or more mortgage payment, and you're barely being able to buy groceries, and that happens, then what? Then what are you going to do? So you want to make sure that you're having a home inspection, home warranty, all of that stuff.
So let's say you have somebody who's got like a house that they're like, okay, this is the one that I want. They have an inspector go in, they're like, okay, just since we're talking about it, furnace is old. You're probably going to need that replaced within the next couple of years, if not sooner. No telling how long it's going to be. It looks like it's about 20 years old. Central air unit looks pretty old. Not really sure what that's going to be, but it's looking like it's showing some wear and tear and some rust from the elements. So these are some of the main things that you're looking at that you'll probably have to replace. Roof, same type of thing. But you have the people who are selling the house that are going, I don't want to come down from my asking price. I don't want to do that. Is there concessions that you can ask for like helping pay for like, let's say closing costs or something like that, and saying, will you put so much % towards the closing costs for us so that we can use that money towards those major repairs? Is that something that can be done?
It is something that can be done, but in a really hot housing market like we're experiencing due to the lack of inventory, because even though the interest rates are coming up, we still have a lack of inventory.
Right.
Okay. So technically we're still in a seller's market. With that being said, we are starting to see some concessions, and they're anywhere from 3 to 6%. And those are typically used for like closing costs and prepaid. So like your closing costs that you would have with your lender, or prepaids to buy down some points to get your interest rate a little bit lower. Really not so much for the concessions of the roofing, unless you can negotiate more.
Right.
It's going to depend on the motivation of the seller. Now, if the seller's got a seat or feet in the sand going, I'm not paying for anything. I'm just going to sell this, and if you want it, you're going to pay me, right? I'm not going to give you nothing. This is what I'm asking. That's it. I mean, sellers are out there like that. So what do you do in that scenario? Well, that's where a home warranty would come into play, because your utilities are operating right now. They passed inspections, but the inspector is doing his job and just telling you, you need to prepare for the next couple of years because this has got age on it. You need to prepare for this. So just because you get a home warranty for, say, 12 to 18 months doesn't mean it stops at 12, 18 months, because they will send you you can extend that. And you can continue paying for it at a discounted rate. I would recommend to keep paying for it. Because even if they don't cover the whole cost of the roof, even if they don't cover, say, half or a quarter, that's less that's coming out of your pocket and that you have to plan for. And it's just a big benefit.
Now, typically, where do like home warranties start as far as like, okay, because you're already talking astronomical amounts of 8% interest rate on a house. So you're already paying that. You're looking at adding more monthly cost for a home warranty on that. Typically, what are you talking like with something along those lines?
A home warranty is a one-time fee. It's a yearly fee. So they typically run about $800. And also another thing I would recommend, there is a add-on, which is a well septic, because in our rural areas, we are all operated with well septics, okay? And it would be horrible to invite everybody over for Christmas and then your well just decides to stop working.
It's a Cousin Eddie situation.
Then you're like, oh no, what am I going to do now? So, and wells are expensive as well. I just put in a new one in my own personal home. Cost me $8,000.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in my home for just over 28 years, and I've replaced my air conditioner. I've replaced my roof. I've replaced my furnace. But I mean, you just got to plan for that. So a well septic inspection and plus a add-on for your home warranty would be two really good things to think about when you're purchasing as well.
Yeah, I mean, if it's that affordable, I mean, why wouldn't you?
They really are, because it doesn't add on to your monthly mortgage, because it's just a one-time. And a lot of times you can ask the seller to pay for it in negotiations.
Right.
For your very first year.
Yep.
And then afterwards, on your second year, it's typically less than $800 of the original price.
Right.
Now,
do they go by like square footage of the house and what things you have? Is that kind of what it typically goes
and what
for?
all you're putting in there.
Right.
So like a 1,500 square foot house is going to be a little bit cheaper than a 3,000 square foot house. Right.
Which would make sense.
And they cover, and you want to read your home warranty, because there's several home warranty companies out there, and just find out exactly what they do cover, what the service call fee is, and they never cover 100% of anything.
Right.
So how much are they actually covering?
Yeah.
And can you pick, this is very important too, can you pick your own person to come and fix it? Or do they have to send theirs? Oh
yeah, because they'll have people that are like these. The same type of thing goes like if you have a car issue, and like they're within network. So these are your list of 5 guys that you can choose to replace your auto glass or something like that, as opposed to if you, and then we'll cover it all, and you don't have to pay anything under your deductible. However,
but
if you choose your own because it's your buddy or your uncle or something like that, or you're just a friend that does good work, you're going to pay extra, because then we're going to put on that deductible.
I mean, it's everywhere. You and I were just talking about healthcare coverage.
Yeah, right.
Same thing.
Yep.
You want to be in control of what you can pick and where you can go.
Yep.
So it's important.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, because initially, like we've talked about, just getting into a house, you're like, the things that you think about is just monthly payment overall. I put X amount down on it. This is what my cost is going to be at this interest rate after closing fees, blah, 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 all those things. This is what my bottom line is. But then, again, we talk about adding on those extras and putting... and why you don't want to get house poor, because then that's when you're like, well, now we've got a short sell, or we've got to foreclose on our house because we can't afford it anymore. Why? Well, because the air conditioner and the furnace went down at the same time, that kind of thing. So
and you got to plan for that kind of stuff,
right?
Private mortgage insurance is another thing, better known as PMI in the real estate world. Okay, so you and I were talking about this the other day. That's what it's called, private mortgage insurance. So if you have less than 20% down, you're going to pay a private mortgage insurance, which is additional on top of your mortgage payment.
Right.
Until you get down to the 80-20.
Right.
Okay. And that could be significant. That could be over $100 additional in your mortgage payment. And people don't think about that either.
Right.
So there's a lot of great programs out there for people that don't have 20% down. I mean, there's rural development, and there is Federal Housing Administration, which is better known as FHA. There's also MSHA out there. MSHA helps with your down payment assistance, because a lot of people, especially now in the economy that we're in right now, it's hard to save money because everything's gone up.
I think I saw a statistic saying that most people have less than, I think it was like $1,500 in their savings right now. And that's typical. Like, that's your average.
Well, you think about it, because gas prices, groceries. Oh my gosh. I went to the grocery store the other day just to pick up a few things. $300 later. And I didn't even have a half a cart.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't buy grandkids clothes or anything like that. You know, it was just food. And it's just crazy. So families right now are feeling that. And the thought of saving 20% to avoid the PMI, to some people, feels impossible. But there is assistance out there. It's called MSHA program. And they help with up to $18,000 of a down payment, which is huge. Yeah,
that does help. Yeah.
It is huge.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Now, it's a second mortgage on your house. So you got to know that. So you're going to have a mortgage, and then you're going to have that. Okay. So, and you have to go through a class. So that's something you really want to talk to your lender about, especially if you're not in a position to have the 20% down. Or maybe you do have the 20% down, but you want to hold on to that for cash flow in the event something does happen to the house. And you're okay with paying that extra $100 a month on your PMI because you know you have that little nest egg of whatever over here. If the furnace goes out, you're okay, right?
Yep.
Or the air conditioning or the water heater or whatever might happen.
Yeah. Man, so much to think about, so much to unpack when it's like, again, we talked about it last week in episode 1, that it was just, or a couple weeks ago, then it was a great idea to just say, hey, let's buy a house, let's sell a house. Now's the time, let's become homeowners. And then all of the other things kind of jump onto, especially if you're a first timer, you know, and there's a lot of worry. There's a lot of, I think, buyer's remorse at some point. It kind of hits,
It happens.
That you're kind of like, holy cow, because it's a big purchase.
It's
probably
usually going to be the biggest purchase of your whole entire life. And with that being said, it's also pride of homeownership too. So there's a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
One, you can do whatever, within reason. You got your township to take, you got to pay attention to township rules and regulations as well. But typically you can plant those flowers you want to, or plant your trees, or make whatever house color that you want if you're not in an association. So many advantages. There's also tax advantages. Talk to your CPA about the interest that you're going to pay on that mortgage. That's a benefit.
Yeah.
And just being a homeowner, that's the American dream, right?
Building equity.
It really is.
I mean, it's bigger than gold right now.
That's how you build your wealth, to be honest with you. A lot of real estate people, myself included, are investors, and we buy real estate because we know that's how you build your wealth.
Yep. It's something that anymore you gotta start looking down that road. And
you do.
If
you
not,
really do.
Then you're looking at saying, okay, am I okay with renting for the rest of my life? Which is tough.
Well, renting, think about it. You're not building any equity to pull out. What if you had to pull your equity out to send a child through college? Okay?
Yep.
That's building your equity through your ownership of real estate. If you're renting, you're helping the landlord
with his
build
college
his
kids.
Wealth and his kids.
It's kind of like owning dogs. The more that you have, you're paying for your vet's child to go to college.
That is so true. I know.
But yeah, what a lot to think about. A lot of really great points to touch on, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks with yet another rousing podcast that you can check out, and we appreciate you tuning in right now. And if you have any type of questions that you have, by all means, Mary, how can they contact you if they're like, hey, you know what, this is a topic I'd like to learn more on?
Oh, and I would love to hear from you. So pop me an email at mary@peacockrealestate.com. Or you can even call the office and talk to me about what you'd like to hear about next. And the phone number is 231-856-4456. Thanks for visiting us at Let's Move and Marry podcast, and we'll have another one in a couple weeks, so stay tuned.